can't hear me. We're muted, aren't we? Mr. Chairman, I've got 10 a.m.
Okay, it sounds like we got a few more coming on here. Just wait just a second.
Linda Weston for the Comptroller's Office.
Vincent Harvell.
Catherine Hare for the Legislative Budget Office.
Catherine.
Hello. And Bruce is with me too, Bruce Davis. He's our AOS.
Okay, this is Fielding Lawson. We do have, it is 10 o'clock, so Central Time. So let's begin. I want to welcome everybody and certainly thank you for being on this call. It's a very important committee and a very important call. So we'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is roll call to establish a quorum, and Casey or Nathan, who will call the roll?
I'll go ahead and call. Hey, wow, welcome. I'll go ahead and call the roll, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I know there have been some changes in terms of positions and things like that, but the State Board of Education makes its official appointments to this committee at the October annual meeting. So if I call the name of someone whom you're sitting in for or whom you're their successor, just say so that you're here for that organization. And that will establish a quorum as if you had already been appointed. Okay? So we'll start off with Dr. Alshai.
I'm here.
Mr. Chairman Brooks.
Here.
David Connor.
Here.
Senator Gresham. Ben Torres.
This is Randall Bennett sitting in and listening for Ben Torres.
Okay. Vincent Harville.
Here.
Chris Henson. Dr. Sarah Hayburn. I'll sit in for her. Dorsey Hobson. Karen King.
Here.
Commissioner McQueen.
Mary Ann Dursky for Commissioner McQueen.
Larry Martin.
Craig Turner for Commissioner Martin.
And for Wayne Miller, we got Dr. Dale Lynch, Executive Director of TOSS.
That's correct. Thank you.
All right. I know we've got Catherine Hare and Bruce both on from the Senate Budget Office.
Here.
Yay. Don Odom.
Here.
Cliff Lippard.
Melissa Brown for Dr. Lippard.
Thank you. Larry Ridings.
Here.
Mr. Chairman Ralston.
Here.
Marianne Sparks. I know they've submitted a name to take her place, but that'll be done in October. Comptroller Wilson. Anyone for the Comptroller's office?
Yes, Linda Weston for the Comptroller's Office.
Hunter Zanardi. I think she had she has to be in class right now and couldn't pop out. Hunter, is that you who just joined us?
No, this is Vincent. I had a little accident.
No, okay. All right. We got
That's hung up there.
all right. What about Denise Page? Anyone for the Tennessee Municipal League? Kevin Krasinski?
Keith McDonald. Keith McDonald for
Keith McDonald for
Tennessee Municipal League.
okay. All right. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Okay, and again, thanks for everybody being on. We do have a quorum and we will proceed. Without objection, we will have the recording of our previous meeting serve as the minutes for that meeting. So without objection, this is so ordered. Let me just take a moment here to recognize Chairman Harry Brooks for his service to Tennessee and to this committee. Chairman Brooks has announced that he will not seek another term in the House. This is going to leave a large hole in the House and certainly on this committee. So Chairman Brooks, we certainly appreciate all of your contributions to K-12 education in our state and particularly to this committee. Sir, you are recognized.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I just felt like that it was time for me to move to other dreams and objectives that I'd like to work on. But I have enjoyed and as a part of a huge team, the state of Tennessee has made huge progress since the last 16 years. I can recall looking and reading materials about being either comparatively to other states dead last or close to it. And but we as an entity and with hundreds of people, pulling together with a lot of great teachers and students really working hard, we've made huge progress, and I'm pleased to be a small part of that effort. And I've enjoyed work with this particular committee as well. But wish you well in the future, and I'm sure you folks will continue on and accomplish even greater things in the state of Tennessee.
Great. Thank you, sir. I think you're exactly right. We have made great progress and something we can really be proud of, and we certainly appreciate all your contributions. At this point, if we were in a live meeting instead of a teleconference call here, I think we'd have a standing ovation for you. So we certainly appreciate your contributions.
Thank you for the kind words.
Okay, at this point, we'll move to the report for Fiscal Transparency Working Group. Mary Ann, do you have that?
I do, sir. Thank you. The fiscal transparency requirement in ESSA calls for all states to report per pupil expenditures at both the school district level as well as the individual school level on the annual report card. The expenditures are further disaggregated by state and local funds versus federal funds. This requirement was originally scheduled to go into effect for the report card that would report on the fiscal year 17-18, the year that just began, and that report would have been due December of 2018. However, since the last meeting of this committee, USED has offered states the option to delay implementation of this requirement for 1 year. Tennessee has opted to take advantage of this delay for several reasons. Many of our districts are still working to modify their financial software to add location or school codes in order to track expenditures at the school level. Tennessee's working group still has some unanswered questions that will have to be resolved before we can feel that we are accurately calculating per pupil expenditures at the school level, and we hope that the pilot will help us answer those questions. The delay will actually allow us to complete the full pilot before we have to implement this statewide, and that's a very big positive in our minds. The pilot is going to involve 19 districts who volunteered and 1 charter operator who volunteered. Per pupil expenditure data will be collected at the state level from these pilot districts and run through the preliminary formula that the working group has suggested. The results will then be analyzed by Tennessee's working group, and hopefully will answer the remaining questions since we will actually have real data to look at, and we'll be able to see how it worked in the real world, not just in theory. We hope to be able to refine, if necessary, the data collection process to make it as easy as possible for our districts. If necessary, we can revise the formula before rolling it out statewide based on the experience of the pilot districts. And lastly, but very importantly, we can begin to look at what types of questions are going to arise from the publication of this school level expenditure data. We know that there will be many questions, and the pilot will give us a chance to look at the questions that arise, help the state help districts analyze that data and formulate responses to those questions. We have delayed meeting with the pilot districts until all of the year-end reporting for fiscal year 17 is complete. Districts are still deep in that process right now. So we're going to wait until the fiscal year 17 reporting is through and the fiscal year 18 budgets are submitted, and then we'll call the districts together and have a first meeting of the pilot. And we anticipate that that will be sometime in September. We'll keep this committee informed as we go forward, and I'm happy to entertain any questions that anyone might have right now.
Okay, questions for Mary Ann? Any questions?
No question. I just wanted to let you know I was on the call.
Thanks,
Okay,
Senator.
who was this? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, any questions for Mary Ann on the Transparency Working Group?
Mary Ann, this is Dale Inchitaus.
Yes, Dale.
Will we know who those 19 districts are, the pilots?
Yes. Let me see if I can pull that up, or I can send that out. I can email that to Nathan, and Nathan can disseminate it to the committee if that's all right.
That would be excellent. I'd like to talk with those superintendents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to the discussion and adoption of top 5 priorities. You will remember that we did a survey of this committee a month or so ago and asked for those priorities. And Nathan, if you could review the results of that survey and
Yes, sir.
let us know where we came out.
Happy to do that. And of course, I sent this out also to each of you. And the results, I would say, aren't terribly surprising. We've taken a fairly consistent push for teacher compensation. And so what I did was just make it as, I took simply what was mentioned the most, the top 5 issues mentioned the most. And with 13 mentions, you've got teacher compensation, tied for second, I guess you could say, guidance counselors with 12 mentions, technology funding with 12 mentions, RTI positions with 9 mentions, and nurses with 5 mentions. On teacher compensation and RTI positions, it was all kind of worded the same way pretty well. I've had the question from some, how were school nurses mentioned? And in some cases, it's just the 2 words school nurses. Some cases it's reduce the ratio of nurses or have more nurses per system. Again, the very nature of our report, as we've discussed in the past, and for those of you that are newer to the committee, we began the process of creating a priority list at this point in time in the year and getting that to the governor, the commissioner of finance and administration, and the commissioner of education. We started doing that, this is the 2nd or 3rd year. And the reason is because what the statute calls for is the BEP report on the 1st of November. By the 1st of November, your executive branch budget recommendation is almost always already in place. You've had executive branch budget hearings in front of the Commissioner of Finance and Administration and the governor. And all of those things are, our piece of recommendation there was very much a day late. Now, that's what the statute called for. Everybody was doing what the law required, and we will still do that. But what we've done these last couple of years is to produce a priority letter in August and hand deliver that to the governor's office so that while they're still in the building process of the budget, we're able to have the priorities of this committee well known to those who have the power to make change at a time when they can make change. So I think everyone on the call has the list of the top 5 priorities as they've come down. Now, my only question is, with these top 5 priorities, is there a special way you'd like to instruct me to word the nurses? Do you want me to just say, make more nurses available in school systems, or provide funding for more nurses, without respect to it being inside or outside of the formula?
Any suggestions there for nurses?
We could just say, adjust the ratio of nurses.
This is Harry Brooks. Just a comment. I think it needs to stay within the formula, so I would approach it with that premise that we look at either the ratio and or provide more funding for nurses in the BEP formula.
So we could say, within the formula, adjust the ratio of nurses.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that'd be fine. But I would keep it in the formula.
Yeah.
Nathan, I have a comment.
Sure.
There is that third item, which is technology funding.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how we need to do this, but I do want the legislature to be aware that in this listing on the technology funding, if a school district in the BEP formula is on stability or baseline, which is what we are in, they would not receive any funding on the technology funding if that were an item that were increased in the BEP formula. That districts that find themselves due to fiscal capacity.
So my thought is, and I think we made this distinction at your request in previous BEP committee reports that come in November. Now, this particular letter is going to go to the 2 commissioners and the governor. But I would say the place.
I want anyone that is aware of receiving this for funding within the BEP formula to be aware that there are districts that even if this enhancement is added, they will not receive local funding.
Okay.
Okay. The other questions, comments about these 5 priorities? And as Nathan said, the intent at this point is just to include these in the letter to the governor and the commissioners so that they can be factored into the budgeting process that's starting to take place.
Mr. Chairman, this is Dolores Gresham, if I may.
Yes, sir. Yes, Dolores.
Sure. I just a comment and perhaps a recommendation, but all summer long, Tennessee Achieves has been making the rounds across the state, recruiting mentors for Tennessee Promise. The fact of the matter is we've got in place an amazing array of opportunities for people to access their secondary education. But in so many areas, the critical point is many of the folks who are taking advantage of these programs, especially Tennessee Promise, obviously, have come from families where no one has been to college before. And so the mentoring and the counseling becomes that much more important. That personal touch becomes that much more important to the success of the students. So, and then we've also had a significant amount of conversation this past year about the role of counselors and how they are recruited, trained, credentialed, and paid. So recently, I read that the governor had attended a conference of community college administrators, and they voiced the concern that counseling was taking a far more important role in the success of students and the quality of that counseling, which is why I talked about recruiting, credentialing, etc. So, you know, perhaps we might give more attention to the role of counselors as partnership with educators in this effort to make students successful. So, you know, I'm certainly open to ideas about that, but I was leaning towards putting more emphasis on counselors. And it was number 2 on the list of priorities.
Right.
Maybe bucking that up to number 1.
Well, so both technology funding and guidance counseling both had 12 mentions. But teacher compensation did have 13 mentions. If, you know, I think if we kept this order, and obviously when you have 2 things tied for the second position, you could show an emphasis on the guidance counselor issue by simply having it be the number 2 there. Teacher compensation, at least from the results of the survey, however, did slightly edge it out. But I think you're right, and it's been consistent all across this state, this conversation about the need for guidance counselors not only to be well trained, but to be freed up as much as possible to do the work of a guidance counselor. And that's, I know the state board has taken some action to strengthen that position as well. But Mr. Chairman, we could certainly list guidance counselors as number 2, and it would be right in line with the numbers.
Yeah, and I think that's a good plan. And Senator, really appreciate your comments. And as Nathan said, we have, I think, taken some action to try to keep counselors focused on counseling and not some of the other jobs that they've been assigned over the years. So we're focusing on getting the ones that are there, more time to really spend on counseling, and then 2, getting more counselors. So I think it is an area that we recognize really does need to be strengthened.
I think I'm perfectly amenable to sending the recommendations up as they are. I just think that I think when they get there, I think the writing is on the wall. I see the messaging that there's going to be continued improved emphasis on the role of the counselor, and so just wanted to be able to support that priority, because from what I see and what I hear, I think that's where it's going. But how we set that up is fine, just fine.
Okay.
And yes, and only supports that position in any case, even if we put it number 2, it's fine.
Okay. Any other comments about this listing of priorities?
Mr. Chairman, this is Keith McDonald, representing Tennessee Municipal League, sitting in for Mitch today. In regards to the counselors, guidance counselors, one of the things that as we've been going through our project to build a TCAT here in Bartlett and talking to our teachers and guidance counselors, making sure that the guidance counselors are getting real life training out there in terms of what's available in not only the education, continuing education, but also job market. And so I just want to be sure that we're not only talking about how many guidance counselors we have, but how they're being trained. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I will tell you, in my conversations with colleagues at the department, I expect that to be their continued priority as well. There is no doubt that the business of guidance counseling is so plugged in, not only to its traditional roles, but where do students go so that they can have the best shot at the American dream. Those decisions are often made sitting across from your guidance counselor in high school and many times as early as middle school. So we could certainly, phrase it to be, emphasis on training. Now, understanding that we're making recommendations to a funding formula without necessarily a whole lot of leverage on what the policies are going to be on that. But I'd be happy to work some language in there about well-trained guidance counselors, if that would be the will of the committee.
Yes, that's
Okay.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Okay, other comments? Okay. So at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize a letter to the governor, to the commissioner of F&A and the commissioner of education that will make clear our priorities so that they can be used in the upcoming budget process. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. I guess we do need to call the roll here, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep, okay, so we could call the roll.
Mr. Alshai, Dr. Alshai, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Chairman Brooks,
Yes.
David Connor,
Yes.
Senator Gresham,
Aye.
Randall Bennett,
Yes.
Vincent Harville,
Yes.
Chris Henson. For Dr. Hayburn, she votes aye. Karen King, Commissioner McQueen,
Pass.
Craig Turner,
Pass.
Dr. Lynch,
Yes.
Catherine Hare,
Aye. Aye.
Don Odom,
Yes.
Melissa Imwatasher,
Pass.
Larry Ridings,
Yes.
Chairman Ralston,
Aye.
Mary Ann Sparks absent, Linda Weston for the comptroller,
Pass.
Hunter Zanardi absent, Greg Turner. I'm sorry, yeah, you came in already, didn't you? Or no?
Yeah.
And Keith McDonald.
Aye.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the ayes have it, the motion is passed, and we will, take care of preparing that letter with the, comments that have been made, here during the meeting. Any additional items we need to consider at this time? If not, that concludes our agenda. The meeting is adjourned. Certainly appreciate your participation, and we'll look forward to additional contact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.